After the tragic destruction of a lot of the Iron Hands Legion at the Dropsite Massacre and the traitorous murder of their Primarch Ferrus Manus, the Legion was left in tatters. The Sons of the Gorgon did the best they could in getting revenge against the forces of the traitor, but their casualty count prevented them from participating in the Horus Heresy as much as they wished to. After the Loyalist victory and the announcement of the Second Founding, where the legions of the Adeptus Astartes were split into smaller chapters, the low number of Iron Hand Battle Brothers saved the Legion from being split into so many chapters. And since that era, the Iron Hands have fathered very few successor chapters. The few of them that do exist are just as stubbornly resilient as the original Legion of old. One of these chapters is the infamous Iron Lords chapter. And with that said, I want to welcome you guys back to another 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be going over the Iron Lords chapter. If you guys are new to the channel, we post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day, so if you have any suggestions or questions about 40K, just ask in the comment section below. I'll try to answer it there, or I'll create a video for you guys. Subscribe to the channel to get that, obviously. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support. It's just $1 a month. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Iron Lords chapter. It is unclear when the Iron Lords chapter was created, but imperial records of the chapter exist since the 38th millennium. The Iron Lords are an example of a Space Marine chapter whose creation seems to be tied to a very specific threat to the Imperium. The Iron Lords were responsible for driving back the hyper-aggressive Xenos race, known as the Bargashi. The chapter fought valiantly and ultimately confined the alien species by forming a blockade around the Grundle stars, until the Imperium could find a way to exterminate the Xenos for good. So violent were the Bargashi that the sinister Dark Eldar often raided their worlds in order to collect slaves for their brutal gladiatorial arenas of Kamara. It was reported that the Iron Lords suffered terrible losses during the judgment of Hellenes, when Inquisitor Hector Rax assumed direct control over the entire 279th Assault Armada of the Imperial Navy, and ordered the mutant population of Hellenes purged for crimes against genetic purity. At the height of this purge, a combined strike force consisting of Space Marines from the Iron Lords, Skullbearers, and the Sons of Guilliman were gathered together to confront the mutant abominations holding the capital. During this confrontation, the Iron Lords contingent became tainted by the mutant hideous gene taint, forcing the fellow Space Marines to purge them as well. In recent years, the Iron Lords have battled the tendrils of Tyranid Highfleet Kraken as it swept through the Node system, leading the Iron Hands to engage one desperate battle after another with an ever greater swarm of bioengineered horrors. The Imperium's fear is that should the Kraken be allowed to assimilate the genetic potential of the Bargashi, the results would be devastating for the galaxy. The Iron Lords have vowed in the name of the Emperor to prevent this at all cost, a vow they will honor with the life of every single battle brother in their chapter, if needed. The chapter's last reported campaign was late in the 41st millennium, when they answered the summon of Marneus Calgar and helped throw back the expansion of the Tau Empire in the Zeitz campaign. With the Iron Lords being reinforced with Primaris Marines, the chapter is expected to bolster their war efforts in the surrounding sectors. Their distinct black and red power armor, and the Iron Lords chapter badge of a silver fist gripping the bottom of a white iron halo on a field of black, is a sign of great honor for the chapter as they purge the galaxy of Xenos. In the most recent millennium, the Iron Lords responded to a call for aid by their progenitor chapter, the Iron Hands. They were amongst many of the Sons of Ferrus Manus that arrived on the Stygia sector, prepared to defend the planet of Mordian in what would later be known as the Iron Crusade. The Iron Hands were one of the few Imperial forces that refused to abandon the Mordian Iron Guard, as they were being invaded by the forces of Chaos. The valiant stand was supported by various contingents from their successor chapters. All the Iron Hands had to do was hold out until their brothers arrived. When the Iron Hands joined their allied forces, they arrived on Mordian to find that the planet was being terrorized by a Night Lord's warband under the command of Eric Deathshriek and their Raptor hordes. Deathshriek's plan was to use the terror his heretical Astartes created in the Mordian population to power a chaos ritual that would plunge the entire world into the warp. The Iron Hands and their allies struck with their customary bluntness, emerging without warning from the warp and engaging the traitor fleet in orbit. They then launched a dropout assault on Mordian's capital. Clan Averni, under the Iron Captain Canok Var, led the charge, and Deathshriek drove his Chaos Cultists into the Iron Hands' guns. One by one, the remaining Iron Hand clan companies joined the battle, and Deathshriek was wounded in single combat by Var. Even as the Iron Hands drop zone came under fresh assault from the Benediction Guard and the Cult of the Whispered Words, renegade warlords from across the sector united in their realization that the Iron Hands could be completely destroyed. With the Loyalist assault faltering, Deathstreak claimed victory as he led his fleet against the Iron Hands in space, outnumbering their warships 3-1. It was at this point that the Iron Hand successors finally arrived. Deathstreak's armada was caught in disarray by the Loyalist reinforcements. With their orders secure, the newly arrived Loyalist warships rained obliteration below on the Mordian populace. The orbital bombardment seemed indiscriminate, but nothing could have been further from the truth. The tactical doctrine known as Hammer and Storm had been pursued planetside as well as in the trackless void. The Iron Hands assault was calculated to stir the renegades and traitors into reckless deeds. What had seemed like a faltering Loyalist advance had merely paused, while the Iron Hands tech marines labored to erect void shields and reinforce the capital city's surviving bunkers. Thus the Iron Hands in those portions of the Mordian populace that they deemed worthy of survival endured the orbital firestorm. Their foes, caught in the open and drunk on the prospect of imminent victory, were not so fortunate. In a little over a solar hour's bombardment, the chaos hold on Mordian was broken for the second time. Eventually, other Imperial reinforcements arrived on Cyprus Mundi, and the Iron Crusade was able not only to push the Chaos forces off Mordian, but also counterattack Chaos garrisons on nearby worlds. The Iron Lord's governing Iron Council then unleashed a second phase of the campaign, with a plan to scour the surviving worlds of the Mordian system of all of their Chaos presence, and wrestle the refineries and orbital shipyards of the neighboring Carvo system from Chaos. At present, the campaign is still ongoing, and the Iron Lords still have operational contingents throughout the sector. And those were 40 facts on the Iron Lords. The Iron Lords have one of the most badass color schemes. I love the black and red color scheme. It's basically like the Flesh Terrors, but whenever you have a Space Marine chapter color scheme of black and another color, like black and yellow or black and red, sometimes even black and green, it really like just makes the model look badass, especially if like the torso is like one, like it'll be black, and then the legs and arms are a different color, or like you know, vice versa, anything like that. It's usually like really good contrast, and it makes the model look really badass. And now that I painted black, I'm not too worried about like edge highlighting. You can get really good details by simply dry brushing. If you're interested in knowing how I did that, check out our 40 facts on the Death Watch Kill Marine. At the end of that video, I do a how-to video on how to paint the Death Watch, and as you know, the Death Watch are just basically black. But I really liked how that model turned out, so probably this year I'll create some form of a small like Space Marine detachment with the color scheme of the Iron Lords or the Flesh Terrors or the Sights of the Emperor. Really cool and badass color schemes. If you guys have suggestions for any other topics of 40K that you guys would like us to cover, let me know what it is in the comment section below. If you have any questions, ask away. I'll try to answer them down below, or I'll create a video for you guys. And thanks so much for listening. I will talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any